How is your relationship going? My partner was in the bathroom with my cousin. It started as a casual game night at home. There were 6 of us: me, my fiancé, my 2 cousins, and my fiancé's friend with his girlfriend. We were all relaxing, having some drinks, smoking a bit. I was on the couch with my younger cousin, who's 18. That's when I noticed something odd. My fiancé and my other cousin, she's 22, were both missing. 5 minutes passed. Something felt wrong. I went to check the bathroom. When I opened the door, I saw my cousin on the toilet, pants down. She quickly slammed the door in my face. Before I could even turn away, my fiancé emerged from the bathroom. When I confronted him, I asked how he'd feel if I was in a bathroom with his friend, pants down. He avoided giving me a clear answer. His only explanation? She was drunk and I was leaving. But those 5 minutes they were gone kept bothering me. After that, his behavior changed completely. He became overly attentive, constantly touching me, calling my name. Even when I told him to stop, that it was too much, he wouldn't listen. It made my skin crawl. I had to retreat to the bedroom just to escape that suffocating attention. Later, I gathered my courage and confronted them both. They denied everything, insisting nothing happened. I couldn't accuse them of something I hadn't witnessed, but I made my position clear. Nothing could have been so urgent it needed to be discussed in a bathroom, and it was completely inappropriate for her to be exposed in his presence. I tried to set boundaries, declaring they could never be in the same room again. But then, reality hit me. How long could I keep policing their interactions? Would I spend every family gathering explaining why my fiancé couldn't attend? The truth is, even if nothing happened that night, the trust is broken. Sometimes it's not about what you know for certain. It's about what you can live with. And I can't live with this doubt. This isn't how I imagined our relationship would end. But here we are. Story 2. 7 years. That's how long we've been together. Me at 37, him at 28. Like any couple, we've had our share of storms. There were times when we nearly called it quits, though the arguments have mellowed over time. Tonight started with something so small. Dinner, just making pasta. I put the dry pasta in the pot before adding the boiling water from the kettle. Such a simple thing, but it set him off. Apparently, I should have heated the water in the pot first, then added the pasta. After that, silence fell between us like a heavy curtain. He retreated to another room, while I eventually went to bed alone. Then came that moment at 2 a.m. He thought I was sleeping when he came into the bedroom. 3 words whispered in the darkness. I hate you. Then he was gone again. Half an hour later, I tried to talk to him, but there he sat, lost in his iPad screen, as if I were invisible. No response, no acknowledgement. Maybe morning will bring clarity. Maybe he'll be calmer then. But those 3 whispered words keep echoing in my mind, making me wonder if they're the truth he's been hiding behind our everyday tensions. 7 years together. And now I'm lying here, wondering if a misplaced pasta dinner really deserves this much pain, or if it's just the final crack in something that's been breaking for much longer than I've wanted to admit. Story 3. 20 years of marriage ended with 2 betrayals. The first came from my husband Derek, the second from my daughter. Both cut deeper than I could have imagined. I discovered Derek's 2-year affair, and with it came another revelation. Our 22-year-old daughter had known all along. She'd covered for him, created alibis, kept his secret. For 2 whole years she carried that burden, choosing silence over truth. When the truth finally surfaced, I didn't confront her directly. She was about to leave for college, and I didn't want to burden her future with this weight. I simply told her I knew, that I understood. But understanding didn't ease the pain. As she left for college, I found myself pulling back. Not intentionally at first. It was like watching a boat drift slowly from shore. Each phone call became shorter, each interaction more distant. I was healing, but that healing meant creating space. time moved forward as it always does. I met someone new, a man with a young daughter of his own. Recently, we all went to Disney together, his treat for his daughter's birthday. She invited her cousins and my son joined us. It felt normal, different, but normal. Then came the storm. My daughter saw the family photos on social media. A month of silence followed, broken only when she called me in tears. Her words tumbled out like rain. I was just a kid. I didn't mean to hurt you. You're replacing me. She wanted forgiveness, demanded it really, insisting I should get over it by now. The irony came when Derek called, angry that I was leaving our daughter for a younger man and a new family. This from the man who chose a 30-year-old girlfriend and destroyed our family with his affair. My son lives with me now. He learned about his sister's secret after overhearing family gossip. The knowledge shattered his relationship with his sister. They barely speak anymore, another crack in our already fractured family. I'm in therapy, working through these layers of pain. Some days, I understand she was young, caught between loyalty to her father and truth to her mother. Other days, that understanding crumbles under the weight of betrayal. Every conversation with my daughter now carries echoes of that pain. I love her. That hasn't changed. But love and trust are different things. One can remain whole while the other lies in pieces. I don't know if I'm failing as a mother by keeping this distance, or if I'm finally learning to protect myself. Perhaps both are true. What I do know is that healing isn't linear, and forgiveness can't be demanded. It must grow at its own pace, like a delicate plant pushing through concrete. Some days, I wonder if we'll ever fully reconnect. Other days, I hope that this distance might eventually build a stronger bridge between us, one built on honesty this time, not secrets. Story 4. I never thought trying to plan a surprise would make me look so suspicious. There I was, sitting next to my girlfriend, when a message notification popped up on my Instagram. Pure panic took over. I tried to hide my phone, but she was quicker. She grabbed it, though I managed to snatch it back almost immediately. My reaction must have seemed bizarre to her. She kept asking what I was hiding, demanding to see my phone. I just kept saying nothing, which probably made everything worse. The truth was simple, yet I couldn't tell her. I'd been organizing her birthday surprise. A local florist on Instagram had messaged me about delivery details for her bouquet and cake. I'd even been conspiring with her younger sister to plan the perfect celebration. That's where things got even more complicated. My girlfriend had spotted messages between her sister and me on her sister's phone. When she asked about those, I fumbled through some excuse about shoe shopping advice. Not my finest moment. The harder I tried to keep the surprise, the more suspicious everything looked. Here I was, trying to do something special for her birthday, but instead, I was acting like someone with something to hide. Finally, I realized I was overthinking everything. The choice became clear. I could either keep the surprise and let her worry, or give her peace of mind. So I told her the truth. Well, part of it. I admitted there was a surprise coming in a few days, and even showed her the florist's Instagram handle. The word fleur in their username probably gave away the flower surprise, but that seemed better than letting her imagination run wild. In the end, I chose our relationship's trust over the perfect surprise, because sometimes the best gift isn't the one that comes in a box, or even with petals, but the honesty that keeps a relationship strong. Story 5. I'm 35, and my mother, who's 58, is engaged to Phil. Phil is 24. Yes, you read that right. Some background. My father passed when I was 19. After time, Mom started dating again, with her partners getting progressively younger. We've always supported her. It's her life, after all. Our family's close-knit. Our houses even back onto each other's yards, connected by a gate. We share dinners, dog-sitting duties, even laundry sometimes. Phil arrived last June. He proposed in autumn, planning a summer wedding. He seemed nice enough, if a bit enthusiastic. He has this habit of calling me and my 30-year-old brother nicknames like Sport, Scout, or Little Buddy. He tried calling my 28-year-old sister Princess once, but her death stare put an end to that. Then came the talk. Phil called me over one weekend, greeting me with his usual sport. My mother was conveniently absent. He launched into this speech about always wanting to be a father, and then dropped the bombshell. Now I know I can never replace your father, the man who made you, but it would mean the world to me if you could call me Dad. I couldn't help but snigger. Then I saw his face. He was dead serious, on the verge of tears. He went on about what it means to be a man and how he wanted to provide for and protect me and my siblings. Remember, I'm 10 years his senior, living independently, while he works part-time at a hardware store and collects manga. He painted this picture of us going camping, watching baseball games, I don't even like baseball, and joining his Lions Club as his boy. Mind you, I'm already a Shriner, so his charitable ambitions weren't exactly groundbreaking. When I left, clearly uncomfortable, he was devastated. My mother called later, not disappointed exactly, but concerned. She explained this was how he proves to himself he's a man. I'm afraid I snapped back that it wasn't my job to certify his manhood, though I apologized immediately. Then came another revelation. They're planning IVF treatment. Mom's not ready to give up on being a mom just yet. That's another can of worms entirely. Here's my dilemma. I had a dad. He died, and that title died with him. But saying no risks fracturing our close family dynamic, especially given our living situation. And somewhere beneath all this awkwardness is my mother's happiness to consider. My brother's suggestion? Call Phil Doctor, Phil, and swap around his nicknames for us, calling each other Blue and Red. At least we can find some humor in this surreal situation. The silver lining? There's no financial angle here. Mom rents her house, it came furnished, and she has no significant assets. Whatever this is, it's not about money. It's about, well, I'm still trying to figure that part out. Story 6. I broke his trust today, I know that. No excuses. But what I found behind that screen has me questioning everything I thought I knew about us. It started with a simple conversation over lunch. I'd noticed him watching someone I'm close to, studying her really. When I asked him about it, calmly, carefully, he brushed it off, saying he hadn't even realized he was doing it. He apologized, and that should have been the end of it. But something felt off. That gut feeling I've always trusted started gnawing at me. When he left, I did something I never thought I would. I opened his laptop and read his messages with his best friend, Mia. The reality I found there was nothing like the one I've been living in. Mia, who's never even met me, hates me. Every impression she has of me comes from him, and apparently those impressions aren't kind. While I've been thinking we're building a life together, she's been hearing about how I'm making his life harder. The words I found cut deep. After our fights, the ones where I'd bare my soul about my insecurities, he'd message her things like, "This bitch is insecure again." Once, when I jokingly said, "Don't cheat on me," before he went clubbing, he told her, "I'm such a whore," and "I almost stole someone's girlfriend." I remember one particular fight he described to her. To my face, he'd been understanding, calm, forgiving. But to her, he painted a different picture entirely, saying things like, "I just need to survive until the end." Not once in those messages did I find him saying anything positive about our relationship. Not once did he defend me when Mia spoke ill of me. This man who's so loving and caring to my face, who I wanted to marry, was a stranger in those texts. In person, we lean on each other, support each other. I feel loved. I feel joy. At least I thought I did. Now I'm wondering if I've been living in a fantasy while he's been living in resentment. Am I trying to marry someone who sees me as a burden to survive? Someone who calls me a bitch behind my back while holding me tenderly to my face? I know I crossed a line reading those messages, but now that I have, I don't know how to unknow what I've learned. I don't know how to reconcile the man I love with the man who vents about me to his best friend. I don't know how to trust what's real anymore. Is this normal? Do people who truly love their partners talk about them this way to their friends? I keep trying to tell myself that everyone needs to vent sometimes, that private conversations with best friends are different. But calling me a bitch, saying he needs to survive being with me, I feel like I'm drowning in two different realities, and I don't know which one is true anymore. Maybe they both are. Maybe that's what terrifies me most. Story 7. Let me tell you about how an empty box of condoms nearly turned into a marriage crisis. My husband and I have what we consider a pretty normal, intimate life. Once or twice a week, nothing wild. We're both naturally low-key that way, and it's always worked for us. At least I thought we were on the same page about that. The other night, I initiated things, reached for the box, and found it empty. No big deal, right? I told him we'd have to wait until tomorrow to grab more. That's when his face changed. How did we already go through a whole box? I laughed at first, thinking he was joking, but his expression stayed serious. Dead serious. That's when he dropped the phrase that made my stomach sink. The math doesn't add up. Suddenly, I found myself in the strangest position, trying to defend our own intimate life to my husband. He was convinced there was no way we could have used them all ourselves. The implication was clear. Someone else must be involved. Here's the thing about being accused of cheating when you've never even considered it. It hits you in waves. First comes the shock, then the hurt, then this bizarre urge to start counting backwards through your intimate moments like you're preparing for an audit. I even offered to do exactly that, to sit down and count through our encounters, prove that we'd use them exactly as expected. But the moment I suggested it, I could see in his eyes that my eagerness to explain only made him more suspicious. The irony isn't lost on me. The box that's supposed to help us be closer together is now driving us apart. I've never cheated, would never cheat, but how do you prove a negative? How do you convince someone that their math is wrong when their doubt is really about trust? I want to talk to him about what's really going on here. Maybe he's feeling insecure about something else. Maybe our definition of normal frequency isn't as aligned as I thought. But how do you start that conversation when your loyalty is already being questioned? It feels like being caught in a logic trap. If I'm defensive, I must be guilty. If I'm too calm, I must be hiding something. If I'm eager to explain, I must be overcompensating. There's no right way to act when someone's already decided to doubt you. All this from an empty box of condoms. Who knew protection could leave you feeling so exposed? Story 8. For 20 years, I've been married to a wonderful man. For 20 years, I've also been dealing with his mother, but I never imagined she'd paint me as a serial killer. The signs were there from the beginning. She was verbally abusive to her family, though she saved her special brand of venom for me. She would slip ingredients I'm allergic to into my food, claiming I needed more exposure. When I'd have reactions, she'd tell others I was faking them for attention. But that was just the appetizer, it seems. Recently, my husband discovered she's been telling people I have Munchausen syndrome, that when I had allergic reactions to her food tampering, I was actually poisoning myself to frame her. A twisted narrative, but not her grandest tale. You see, according to her, I'm also responsible for her father's death. He died 5 years ago under her care, isolated from others because she didn't trust doctors. In her version, I somehow orchestrated his slow poisoning. For attention, naturally. The stories kept growing. Now she's telling people I'm slowly poisoning my husband, claiming his inherited disease with its progressive symptoms is actually my handiwork. I suspect she's even suggested I murdered my own mother. At Mom's funeral a few months ago, several of my husband's relatives approached me with oddly gleeful questions about whether I was alone when she died, if I pulled the plug. Their eagerness for details was chilling. The pieces started falling into place. Over the past couple of years, my husband's extended family has grown increasingly strange around me. Last Christmas, they would literally leave rooms when I entered. No one thought to mention why until my husband's siblings started joking about it recently. For years, I've underreacted to her behavior, trying to preserve my husband's family relationships. My silence allowed these poisonous stories to spread unchecked, like a cancer through the family tree. The most unsettling part? She isn't obviously unhinged. She's awful and miserable, yes. but she presents well enough that people don't immediately dismiss her claims. She's cultivated these stories carefully, letting them grow roots in the family's consciousness. Now I'm left wondering, how do you defend yourself against accusations of multiple murders? How do you prove you're not a serial killer without sounding defensive? How do you rebuild family relationships when half the family thinks you're quietly poisoning their loved ones? 20 years of marriage, and I'm suddenly cast as Lady Macbeth in my mother-in-law's twisted production. The question isn't just how to clear my name, it's how to ensure these toxic tales don't poison another 20 years of our lives. Story 9. Something felt off this Thanksgiving. You know that feeling when the air gets heavy with unspoken words? That's how it was. After 5 years together and 6 months of marriage, I thought I could read my wife pretty well. Tonight, I finally asked her about that tension. She said her sister and brother-in-law were having problems, something that came up in therapy. They live in another state, so their troubles shouldn't have been affecting her this much. But there was more to the story. There's always more. It's because I didn't want you to find out about it at Thanksgiving when they're out here, she said, her voice getting smaller. Because it's something that happened at my bachelorette party. With me. The words hung in the air like smoke. When I pressed for details, she gave me the answer that wasn't an answer at all. I don't remember. I was drinking a lot that night. Just like that, everything changed. 5 years of trust, 6 months of marriage. All of it suddenly felt like a house built on sand. My mind exploded with a million thoughts, each one fighting to be heard. I told her I needed to think, needed to drive. Now I'm sitting in my office parking lot, staring at nothing, seeing everything. The woman I never thought would hurt me just told me she did exactly that, with her sister's husband, at her bachelorette party, just before our wedding. The worst part isn't even the betrayal. It's the casual way it came out, like a footnote in someone else's story. Like it wasn't the kind of truth that could shatter a marriage. Now I'm here, alone in a dark parking lot, trying to figure out how to move forward when I can't even process where I am. How do you rebuild trust when the foundation was cracked before the walls even went up? 6 months of marriage. 5 years together. One night that changed everything. And I'm left wondering which version of my life was real. The one I thought I was living, or the one I just discovered. Story 10. At 19, I thought I knew what love meant. It meant making sacrifices, right? Doing anything to keep your partner happy? That's what I believed until my girlfriend of 8 months gave me an ultimatum that changed everything. It started when she got her first tattoo. She'd always wanted one, and finally made it happen. Then came the demand that blindsided me. She wanted me to get her name tattooed on my body. Not someday, not when we got married. Now. By December 8th to be exact, or we were through. I'd always planned to get tattoos eventually. I was saving up for them, dreaming about designs. But getting someone's name? That felt like tempting fate. I tried explaining this to her, suggesting maybe we could wait until marriage when it would mean more. She didn't want to hear it. Here I was, barely an adult, facing what felt like an impossible choice. Permanently mark my body with her name, or lose her forever. The thought of breaking up felt unbearable. I loved her to bits, as I kept telling myself. I wanted a future with her. When I asked if she'd get my name tattooed first, she had a ready answer. She'd do it after I got mine. Of course. Then something remarkable happened. I shared my story, and for the first time, I saw my situation through other people's eyes. The response was unanimous. This wasn't love. It was manipulation. I'd been so focused on making her happy, I'd lost sight of my own boundaries. I'd become what someone called a submissive, love-sick idiot, and they weren't wrong. The night I finally ended things, 8 months of fog lifted. Her reaction told me everything I needed to know. She broke down, blamed me for everything. All because, for once, I'd said no. It hit me then. I'd spent our entire relationship giving her whatever she asked for, never saying no, tolerating manipulation and threats just to keep her happy. I'd confused love with submission, mistaken control for caring. The relief I felt after ending things was overwhelming. It felt like putting down a weight I hadn't even realized I was carrying. To celebrate my first real act of self-respect, I bought myself a new car, a gift to mark the moment I learned that sometimes love means saying no, and that the most important relationship to protect is the one with yourself. Looking back now, I realized that permanent ink wasn't the real issue. The ultimatum wasn't about a tattoo, it was about control. Sometimes the best mark you can make isn't on your skin, but in your life, by learning to stand up for yourself. Story 11. Here I am, 6 months into what seemed like a normal relationship, suddenly dealing with what I can only describe as interesting attempts at flirtation. It started innocently enough, or maybe not so innocently, depending on how you look at it. She went out with her friends one night, came back, and casually mentioned accepting drinks from some guy at the bar. When I expressed my annoyance, because who wouldn't be, she hit me with this curveball. "Are you going to spank me?" I nearly choked on my own confusion. Since then, it's become a pattern. She'll do something, anything really, that might warrant a reaction from me, and out comes the spanking question. "Burnt dinner? Do you want to spank me? Said something annoying? Are you going to punish me?" Each time I'm left feeling like I'm in some sort of bizarre sitcom where I missed the joke. Her delivery walks this strange line between seductive and comedic, leaving me completely baffled about whether she's trying to be funny or sexy. Both? Neither? I have no idea. The thing is, she's naturally funny, the kind of person who can make anything into a joke. But this? This just leaves me squirming in discomfort. I mean, I have zero interest in spanking my adult girlfriend. The whole concept feels about as appealing as eating soup with a fork. So I do what any confused boyfriend would do. I change the subject faster than a chameleon changes colors, which, now that I think about it, might be backfiring. Either she's found the perfect way to avoid actual conversations about issues, or she's trying to initiate something, and my topic-changing gymnastics are sending the wrong message. The really awkward part? I'm too embarrassed to just ask her what's going on. It's like we're caught in this weird dance where she suggests physical punishment, and I pretend I suddenly need to check if I left the stove on, even if we're not even in the kitchen. I can't help but wonder, is this her version of flirting? A way to avoid real conversations? Some kind of test? Or am I completely missing something obvious here? The irony isn't lost on me that I'm more comfortable sharing this with strangers on the internet than actually asking my girlfriend, "Hey, what's with all the spanking suggestions?" But here we are, stuck in what I'm calling the spanking situation, where every minor mishap apparently warrants corporal punishment, and I'm just trying to figure out if I'm missing some major relationship memo. Story 12. 20 years of marriage, and here I am, staring at a pair of jean shorts that shouldn't exist. They appeared 3 weeks ago, tucked away in the dark corner of our shared closet under my husband's hanging clothes. Not my size, not my style, definitely not mine. The thing is, we've never had secrets like this. Sure, we've had our issues over 2 decades. What couple hasn't? But cheating and lying were never part of our story. Until now, maybe. These shorts, they're like a splinter in my mind. If he'd found strange women's clothing mixed in with his things, he would have brought them to me. That's just who he is, or who I thought he was. But these shorts just sit there, a mystery I can't solve. Today, they moved. Not far, just a few feet, buried at the bottom of his pile of old clothes. And that's what really gets me. If they're such a big secret, why keep them at all? Why not just throw them away? Why this half-hearted attempt at hiding them? The questions keep me up at night. I've thought about taking them, just to see if he notices. Considered hiding a camera to catch his reaction when he discovers they're gone. Even contemplated sticking a GPS tracker in them to see where they might end up. But each of these ideas makes me feel sick. 20 years together, and suddenly I'm plotting surveillance operations over a pair of shorts. It feels wrong. But so does not knowing. I could just ask him, of course. Direct communication. Isn't that what every relationship expert preaches? But then I might have to face either a lie or a truth I'm not ready for. Or worse, he might get defensive and I'll never know the real story. The shorts have become more than just clothing. They're a test of trust, a measure of our marriage, a symbol of everything I thought we didn't have to worry about. Every time I open that closet, they're there, mocking me with possibilities I don't want to consider. How did we get here? From 2 decades of open honesty to me contemplating turning into a private investigator over a piece of denim. When did our shared closet become a crime scene, and why am I suddenly afraid to ask a simple question? Maybe what scares me most isn't the shorts themselves, but what they represent. The possibility that after 20 years, I might not know my husband as well as I thought I did. That there might be corners of our life together that are as dark and hidden as that spot in the closet where I first found them. Story 13. What started as a simple Halloween night turned into a nightmare that's still unfolding. I'm a 35-year-old nurse, married to a wonderful woman, and father to a beautiful 22-month-old daughter. We were at my sister-in-law's house, using their golf cart for trick-or-treating, something that should have been simple family fun. The first red flag was when the cart was obviously overcrowded. My sister-in-law kept mentioning how it was leaning. I offered to drive, but they ignored me, complete with eye contact and everything. So I stood on the side, holding the roof. Not ideal, but manageable. Then my brother-in-law took over driving. My wife started getting anxious about his reckless behavior. We asked him to stop. Me, my wife, her sister, all ignored. We even got off at one point thinking he was about to hit something. When we reluctantly got back on, that's when it happened. He reached over and started pulling at my shirt, messing around while my wife held our daughter. I fell. Then I watched in horror as my wife and baby tumbled after me. In that moment, seeing them hit the ground, my medical training warred with pure rage. The nurse in me won out. I assessed them quickly, seeing the bruises and scrapes forming on my daughter's tiny body. When I said we needed to go to the hospital, my mother-in-law called, trying to talk us out of it. My wife was having a panic attack, blaming herself, while I yelled at her to hang up. We went anyway, because that's what responsible parents do when their child has been thrown from a moving vehicle. The aftermath has been almost worse than the incident. My brother-in-law showed up unannounced the next day, offering a half-hearted apology and denying his violent past, including breaking someone's jaw at a bachelor party last year over words about his daughter. The irony of him physically endangering my daughter seems lost on him. Then came the in-laws, pushing us to get over it for the sake of family harmony. They invaded our home to defend the man who could have killed their daughter and granddaughter. When I pointed out that anyone else would probably sue over this, my father-in-law exploded, at my wife, not me, because apparently mentioning legal consequences is worse than endangering a toddler. The wounds run deeper than the visible scrapes and bruises. My wife hasn't left the house since that night, too ashamed of their injuries being seen. She's in therapy now, struggling with anxiety, feeling like she's losing her mind. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law is more concerned about maintaining holiday traditions than her daughter's mental health. This isn't just about one reckless moment on a golf cart. It's about years of disrespect. My brother-in-law's physical threats, my mother-in-law's comments about my income, the clear favoritism toward the wealthier sister and her husband. Now they expect us to sweep it all under the rug for the sake of family. But here's what they don't understand. My wife and daughter are my family. Their safety and well-being come first. If protecting them means breaking tradition, then those traditions weren't worth keeping. The real question isn't how to handle their pressure to move on. It's why they're more focused on preserving appearances than acknowledging the gravity of what happened. So no, we won't get over it just because the holidays are coming. Some things matter more than maintaining a facade of family harmony. Like making sure your child feels safe, your wife knows she's supported, and your boundaries are respected. The bruises will heal. But the trust? That's another story entirely. Story 14. I'm 19 in college, and I've been keeping a secret from the person I love most. Every time I visit my boyfriend, I tell him I'm staying at my sister's place. But really, I've been sleeping in my car, hidden in the dark corners of apartment complex parking lots, waiting for 6:30 a.m. when I can move to a park or library without raising suspicion. 2 weeks ago, my car broke down after seeing him. It was 9 p.m., and I was stranded. His family was 3 minutes away, while my sister was 25 minutes out. I called his family for help, and now mine is furious. Well, most of them. My whole family, except my dad and cousins, seem to wish I'd disappear entirely. The irony cuts deep. I'm always there when they need help, but when I'm the one in trouble, I'm suddenly an inconvenience. Maybe that's why I started sleeping in my car in the first place. Better to be uncomfortable than unwanted. My boyfriend is 18, and he's the only person who truly seems to care. We've been together for 2 years, and just recently, he offered to pay for everything when I visit him by train this Friday. His kindness melted my heart, which only makes this secret harder to carry. I hate asking for help. The thought of burdening his family again after they helped with my car feels impossible. And staying at his parents' house? It feels morally wrong. We're so young, and I can't shake the feeling that we shouldn't be doing overnight visits yet. But now I'm seeing my choices through different eyes. I've been parking in dark places, sleeping alone in my car, making myself vulnerable to who knows what dangers. All because I didn't want to be a burden. Looking back, I realize how foolish that was. I could have been kidnapped or killed, all because I was too proud, too anxious, too afraid of being judged to ask for help. Social anxiety has been my constant companion, making every interaction feel like climbing a mountain. But maybe the real mountain I need to climb is this wall I've built around myself, this belief that asking for help makes me unworthy. I need to tell him everything, in person, where I can see his face, where we can work through his anger and hurt together. Because he will be angry, and he should be. Not because I'm gross or unworthy, but because I put myself in danger instead of trusting him with the truth. 2 years together, and I've been sleeping in my car to see him, thinking I was protecting everyone from my problems. But maybe I was just protecting myself from the scariest thing of all, being vulnerable enough to let someone help me. I see it now. Sometimes being strong means admitting when you're not okay. Sometimes love means letting people worry about you. Sometimes trust means sharing your darkness, not just your light. Friday, I'll take that train to see him. And this time, I'll tell him where I've really been sleeping all these nights. Because maybe, just maybe, the truth isn't as heavy as the secret I've been carrying. Story 15. 3 years of marriage built on shared dreams, including one very specific agreement. No children. Not now. Not ever. 6 years of faithfully taking the pill, never missing a day, watching the clock to keep the same schedule. We were careful. We were sure. Then came the silence. 2.5 months without a period. I didn't worry. My cycle has always been unpredictable, and the pill only made it more so. No symptoms, no morning sickness, no cravings. Just life as usual. Until my monthly checkup changed everything. 6 weeks pregnant, the doctor said, as casually as if he were commenting on the weather. I argued, of course, demanded another test, bought my own from the pharmacy. But they all said the same thing, positive. For 2 weeks now, I've been carrying this secret, feeling it grow heavier with each passing day. My husband keeps asking what's wrong, and each time he does, the words get harder to find. How do you tell someone who's certain they don't want children that you're carrying their child? I know why he doesn't want kids. His reasons are valid, rooted in experiences that have shaped him deeply. We talked about this before marriage, agreed on our child-free future. It wasn't just a preference, it was a promise. Now here I am, breaking that promise without meaning to. The pill failed us, and I'm terrified that knowledge will break us too. He looks at me with concern when I zone out during dinner, when I can't sleep at night, when I dodge his questions about what's bothering me. Each moment of worry on his face adds to my guilt. Each day of silence makes the eventual conversation harder. I could get an abortion. That would solve everything, wouldn't it? Except, I'm not sure I can go through with it. Not because I've always wanted children, I haven't. But now that there's life growing inside me, the thought of ending it fills me with a different kind of dread. So I'm stuck between impossible choices. tell him and risk losing him, or make a decision about this pregnancy without him knowing. Both options feel like betrayal. The irony isn't lost on me that we got married because we trusted each other completely. And now I'm sitting here wondering how to tell him something that could end our marriage. Something neither of us planned, something I still can't quite believe is happening. 6 weeks pregnant, 2 weeks of knowing, and still no words to bridge the gap between the future we planned and the reality we're facing. I love him so much that the thought of him walking away makes it hard to breathe. But every day I don't tell him feels like another lie, another crack in the foundation we built together. I keep touching my stomach. Not because I feel anything there yet, but because I'm trying to make sense of how something so small could threaten everything I hold dear.